The galaxy remembered humanity for one thing above all else: their will to survive. Before the Treaty of Silence, humanity had carved its place in the stars with the same determination that carried it through ancient plagues, global wars, and planetary disasters. To many civilizations, humans were astonishing, brilliant innovators, tireless workers, curious adventurers. But to others, they were something else: unpredictable, ruthless when cornered, capable of victory even in hopeless battles. The Galactic Concord was born from the ashes of 3 interstellar conflicts, each involving countless species. When humanity entered the stars, the Concord watched them closely. Humans arrived not as conquerors, but as diplomats and scientists, eager to prove they could be peaceful members of the galactic family. Yet their reputation followed them. Even before they fought a single extraterrestrial enemy, the galaxy studied their history, their ancient wars, their weapons, their destruction, and their resilience. Some worlds whispered that if humans ever went to war among the stars, no one could predict the outcome. So after a long century of negotiations, the Concord proposed the Treaty of Silence, a binding agreement that forbade humans from engaging in offensive or defensive warfare. They could maintain police forces but no armies. No fleets designed for combat. No development of new weapons. The galaxy would protect Earth, and Earth would remain neutral, untouched. Humanity signed the treaty. For most, it felt like stepping into a new era. Peace reshaped Earth. Cities glittered with clean energy. Universities overflowed with students. Art and culture blossomed, drawing millions of alien visitors every year. Young humans grew up believing war was a relic of primitive times, something their ancestors endured but they would never face themselves. It was the quietest era the species had ever known. But not everyone embraced the silence. In the mountains of New Carthos, far from the glowing cities and peaceful gardens, an old soldier named Ruthless lived in a secluded compound. He had fought in the final conflicts before humanity joined the Concord, back when the world was still mending its scars. Most people had forgotten those days, but Ruthless had not. Each morning while the sun rose behind jagged peaks, he trained. He ran the steep trails until his legs trembled. He practiced with blade and rifle, though both were training replicas approved under the treaty's limitations. He maintained discipline like a monk guarding an ancient temple. The neighbors whispered that he was a relic, a stubborn reminder of humanity's violent past. Ruthless didn't mind. He knew why he trained. Because peace was only peace when all sides agreed to it. Humanity might have set aside its weapons, but Ruthless understood one truth that time itself had taught him. The universe was vast and kindness was not evenly distributed. Humanity obeyed the Treaty of Silence with sincerity. They dismantled their war fleets, sealed their military factories, and locked away weapon systems so advanced that even the Concord felt a quiet relief. Earth's military academies became institutions of history and strategy rather than active service. Children were taught to cherish life. Adults built cities reaching toward the clouds. Families traveled freely across worlds. Yet far across the void, past the mapped star lanes, past the Concord's understanding, something stirred. At first, it was nothing more than disappearing ships, freighters failing to arrive, mining crews falling silent, small settlements reporting strange metallic storms before their signals cut off. The Concord dismissed the early warnings. Space was dangerous, accidents happened. But the disappearances spread. Whole colonies vanished without a single distress beacon. Patrol fleets sent to investigate returned crippled, or didn't return at all. Their last transmissions contained only static mixed with something that sounded alive, moving, feeding. Rumors flowed through the interstellar networks. Devours, they called them. A living plague of metallic flesh. A storm that consumed everything it touched. But the Concord could not confirm the truth. Their fleets tried again and again to push into the affected zones. Each attempt ended the same way: failure, death, or silence. When the threat finally made itself known, it did so not quietly but brutally. The world of Sirius 4, population 8 million, went offline in less than an hour. A single, looping transmission escaped as the planet fell. They are eating the sky. The Concord Senate erupted in chaos. Representatives argued, strategists panicked, scientists threw theories into the air like desperate prayers. No species had enough soldiers to halt the devourers. Those who once maintained vast armies had disarmed after centuries of peace. War had become a word for history books. The Concord Chancellor eventually rose, voice trembling. "There remains one species with the capability to fight this threat," she said. "But we forbade them from war." No one needed her to say the name. The humans. Across the galaxy, millions of eyes turned toward Earth. Would they help? Could they fight? Should the Concord even ask them to break the treaty everyone insisted on decades ago? At the edge of the debate, one delegate whispered the thought many feared. If we ask them to fight, we awaken the very thing we once chose to silence. Yet the alternative was extinction. After 3 days of unending arguments, the Concord sent an envoy to Earth. The delegation landed on the marble platforms of Aurora Prime, the capital city floating above the clouds. Humanity's leader, High Chancellor Aurelia Kane, greeted them with steady composure. Tall, dignified, and known for her sharp intellect, she had guided Earth through decades of prosperity without lifting a weapon. The Concord explained everything. The devours, the fallen worlds, the dying fleets, the growing darkness consuming the stars. When they finished, silence filled the chamber. Aurelia closed her eyes. "We honored your treaty," she said softly. "We dismantled our armies. We buried our weapons. We taught our children to look toward creation, not destruction. We trusted that the galaxy would protect us, as we were forbidden from protecting ourselves." The envoy bowed his head. "And now," Aurelia continued, "you ask us to take up the blade again." He swallowed. "We ask you to save us." Her next words echoed across every continent. Humanity accepted silence out of hope. But hope does not survive monsters. If the stars need us, then we will answer. That night, a message went out to all of Earth. The Treaty of Silence is broken. Around the world, sealed military vaults trembled as ancient locks disengaged. Orbital factories reactivated. Old soldiers woke from peaceful retirement. And in the mountains of New Carthos, Rylus Varen stood in the cold dawn air, watching a drone deliver a single black-coded message. Rylus Varen, it read. "By order of Earth's High Council, you are recalled to service." The silence was ending. And humanity, long forbidden from war, was preparing to become what the stars now desperately needed. Monsters. The first confirmation of the devours came not from a scientist or soldier, but from a terrified miner on a remote moon called Helion Verge. His face appeared in a shaky transmission, eyes wide, body trembling, emergency lights flickering behind him. Static swallowed half his words, but the message was clear enough. "They're not machines," he gasped. "They're alive, metal, breathing, eating, everything." Something crashed behind him. The miner screamed and the feed cut to black. The Concord listed Helion Verge as lost. But that was only the beginning. Within days, the same phenomenon struck the Kessler Line, a string of industrial stations spanning several systems. Entire structures vanished from star maps, replaced by fields of drifting debris and residue so heavily irradiated that no rescue attempt could get close. A week later, the planet Vaurith Prime, home to 30 million, fell silent. Distant observatories recorded the moment it happened, a cloud of dark, shifting mass descending through the atmosphere like a storm made of blades. The planet did not explode. It simply dimmed, devoured. The Concord could no longer pretend it was a natural disaster or a rogue machine swarm. The enemy was sentient, coordinated, and expanding at a horrifying pace. And it was coming closer. In the vast chamber of the Concord Senate, fear ruled the air. Representatives filled the amphitheater, scaled, feathered, crystalline, and countless forms of alien life, all shouting in their native languages. Holograms flickered above them, displaying the latest losses. Entire regions of the star map glowed red like infected wounds. The devourers will consume the inner belt within weeks. We cannot muster fleets fast enough. Activate the war protocols. Mobilize every species. We don't have armies anymore. The Chancellor struck her staff against the floor. Order. But order did not come. Panic had taken hold. For centuries, the galaxy had lived in comfort, believing peace was permanent. Only the most ancient species remembered what it meant to fear extinction. The younger ones had grown soft, relying on treaties and diplomacy to solve all problems. The devourers did not negotiate. They did not communicate. They only spread. A single quiet voice broke through the chaos. It belonged to Counselor Tavern, an elder whose people had once fought a losing war against ancient machines. His words carried the solemn weight of experience. "There is only one power left in the galaxy capable of war," he said. And silence, real silence, finally filled the chamber. Everyone knew what he meant. The humans. Earth had been disarmed. Its military dismantled. Its war fleet sealed away under strict watch. But its potential, its dangerous potential, had never been forgotten. A counselor with shimmering green eyes hissed nervously. If we ask them to fight, we undo centuries of work. Their weapons are exactly what we need, Tavern finished. Another representative rose, feathers trembling. But what if we unleash something worse than the devourers? Humanity's history. The Chancellor snapped. Will be irrelevant if we die. The chamber fell into uneasy quiet. Finally the vote was cast. The envoy to Earth was chosen. There were no cheers. Only dread. When the Concorde vessel arrived in Earth's orbit, the planet appeared deceptively calm, oceans glistening beneath golden sunlight, cities gleaming like polished glass. The envoy, Ambassador Thale Viren, had expected to feel relief. But instead, he felt a strange pressure, as if the very atmosphere carried the weight of something sleeping, something immense. Earth's floating capital, Aurora Prime, welcomed the delegation with polite formality. The humans wore ceremonial robes, warm smiles, peaceful expressions. They bowed in greeting, not out of servitude but genuine hospitality. Thale envied their ignorance. He envied that they did not yet know what the stars had become. He was escorted to the Grand Hall, where High Chancellor Aurelia Kane awaited him. She greeted him with the poise of someone who had spent her life making impossible decisions. Ambassador Thale, she said, your journey was unexpected. We sensed urgency in your message. Speak freely. Thale drew a shaking breath. High Chancellor, the Concorde is under attack. She did not flinch. We suspected as much. Thale froze. How? Aurelia turned, activating a large display behind her. The screen showed faint energy traces at the edges of human-mapped space, disturbances the scientific community had been tracking quietly. We do not ignore the universe simply because others tell us to, she said. Thale felt a surge of gratitude and fear. The devourers, he whispered. They are consuming systems faster than we can respond. Entire worlds vanish in hours. Our fleets fall with no chance of retreat. Even our dreadnoughts cannot. His voice cracked. Aurelia watched him carefully. So you came to ask for something you swore we must never be allowed. Thale bowed his head. We ask for your warriors, your fleets, your strength. Aurelia walked to the window overlooking the city. Children played in the floating parks. Sky gliders drifted like birds. The world was peaceful, safe, quiet. Centuries ago, she said softly, we silenced our weapons because the galaxy feared us. We accepted the treaty. We chose to believe in peace. And now you return, asking us to do what you forced us to abandon. Thale could not meet her gaze. We are desperate. Aurelia closed her eyes. When she spoke again, her voice carried a hard edge. Desperation brings clarity, Ambassador. She turned toward him. And clarity demands action. That night, Aurelia addressed the entire planet. Her message echoed through every home, school, and city. Humans of Earth, she began, her voice solemn, we upheld the Treaty of Silence with honor. We abandoned war for the sake of peace. But peace has been shattered, not by us but by a force that consumes all life. Images of the devourers filled the screens, shifting metallic horrors, entire worlds collapsing into darkness. The Concorde asks for our aid. Not because they desire our return to war, but because no one else remains who can fight. She took a steady breath. We did not ask to become weapons again. But the stars are dying. And if we do nothing, the darkness will reach us as well. The final words carried a power no one on Earth had heard in generations. The Treaty of Silence is ended. Prepare for recall. Throughout the planet, the quiet hum of peace was replaced by something older, deeper, something that felt like thunder rolling beneath the soil. Across continents, forgotten vaults unlocked. Orbital factories roared back to life. Training academies lit their halls once more. And deep in the mountains of New Carthos, Rylus Varen read his recall order beneath the pale morning light. He stood quietly, letting the words settle into him like an old armor he had never truly taken off. He did not smile. He did not fear. He simply whispered, "It begins again." Rylus Varen stood alone on the balcony of his mountain home as the recall message flickered across the sky screens. The cool wind rushed past him, carrying the scent of pine and frozen stone. For a long moment he simply breathed, slow, steady, controlled. He had always known this day might come. Humanity's peace was beautiful, but fragile. And fragility had a way of shattering. He turned, walking inside his modest dwelling. It was sparse, only a bedroll, a training mat, a set of old medals he never displayed, and a simple steel locker he had never opened since the treaty was signed. Until now. The biometric lock recognized him instantly. With a soft hiss, the locker opened. Inside lay a black case containing a relic of the past, a personalized command insignia shaped like a silver shard. Rylus clipped it to his chest. The soldier in him awakened like a long-asleep beast. He whispered, "Back to the fire." Earth did not erupt into chaos when the recall order arrived. Humanity had always been uniquely adaptive. Even after generations of peace, the instinct to prepare surged through the population with terrifying coordination. The message from High Chancellor Aurelia Kane had been simple but unmistakable. The stars need us, and we will answer. Across continents, millions of citizens mobilized within hours. Old bases reopened. Orbital forges that had slept for a century burned white-hot. Medical centers prepared for battlefield rotations. Transport ships lined up above cities like flocks of metallic birds. But the greatest awakening happened beneath the surface, literally. Deep below the oceans, beneath Antarctica's crystallized plains, within old asteroid mines hollowed out for secret storage, humanity's most dangerous creations stirred. These were the weapons sealed by the Treaty of Silence. The ones everyone hoped would never be needed again. Massive dreadnoughts reactivated, their power cores humming like ancient hearts shaking off frost. Exo-armor frames locked into place on assembly lines, assembling themselves with self-guided precision. Autonomous drones were forged in millions, each one glowing with blue core light. Earth did not build weapons. It unleashed them. The first strategic meeting between humans and the Concorde was held 3 days later inside Earth's Strategic Command Dome, recently unsealed from its century-long slumber. The dome hummed with self-repairing nanofabric and mirrored projections. Military advisors, strategists, and field commanders filled the space. Among them stood Aurelia Kane, poised yet solemn, and Ambassador Thale, who now understood why the galaxy once feared this species. He watched the humans analyzing the devourer threat with cold clarity. There were no panicked cries, no denial, no dithering. Humanity studied the creature as if preparing to dissect it, and then destroy it. As the meeting began, Aurelia addressed the room. "We are not returning to war for pride or conquest," she said. "We do this because the Void has given us no alternative. Our objective is simple: identify the Devourer's origin, understand their structure, and eliminate the threat." Her eyes hardened. "We will not allow the galaxy to burn while we remain silent." A deep voice echoed behind her. "Nor will we stand unprepared." Rylus Varen entered. Even among the commanders he stood out. Broad-shouldered, hair streaked with silver, eyes sharp with the weight of experience. Many younger officers whispered his name with awe. A veteran of the pre-treaty conflicts. A living legend. Aurelia greeted him with a nod. "Commander Varen. Ready to lead again?" His reply was a simple, unwavering, "Always." He stepped forward and activated a hollow display of the Devourer attacks. Gravitational distortions. Metallic biomass readings. Energy signatures. Then he pointed to the leading edge of the destruction. "They're learning," he said. "Each attack is more efficient, more coordinated, more aggressive. They operate like a hive, but think like predators." Thale shivered. "Our fleets were shredded. Even our strongest barriers." Rylus interrupted gently, "Your fleets were built for deterrence, not for annihilation." Human officers murmured agreement. Aurelia stepped beside him. "Earth's forces will take the front line. The Concorde will support evacuations and defense. We strike first. We strike hard. And we do not stop." A Concorde strategist blinked nervously. "You speak as if you intend to become the galaxy's sword." Rylus answered, "The galaxy needs monsters. We've spent a century pretending we weren't good at being them." Training for active-duty soldiers began immediately. Recruits who had never held a weapon before were transformed within days, not months. Human adaptability was unrivaled. Exo-armor fused seamlessly to their bodies, guided by neural interfaces that read intention faster than muscle movement. Simulations of Devourer encounters were brutal. Soldiers pushed through exhaustion, simulated fear, and forced adaptation drills designed to replicate the unpredictable nature of the enemy. And leading the elite military transformation was Rylus Varen. His unit, once known centuries ago as the Obsidian Wing, was being reformed. An elite human strike force designed for deep penetration, high-risk missions, and rapid destruction. He stood before thousands of candidates, all silent, waiting for his words. "Some of you think this will be glorious," Rylus said. "You're wrong. This will be ugly. It will be brutal. It will test you in ways peace could never prepare you for." He scanned their faces. "We were forbidden from war because they feared what we could do. Now the stars beg for our return. So we will give them something to fear again. He raised his arm, activating the black emblem of the obsidian wing. This unit is not built for medals. Not for fame. We are the ones who stand in the dark so others may see the dawn. We are the monsters who protect the innocent. The emblem glowed with cold light. If you cannot accept that, walk away now. No one moved. Not one. Rylus nodded. Good. Then prepare yourselves. The devourers are coming, and we're going to meet them. Above Earth, in the void, thousands of ships formed into battle formations. The largest vessel, the Resolute Dawn, hovered like a steel titan, ready to become the flagship of humanity's return to war. Aurelia stood on the observation deck, watching the dawn rise over the planet one last time before they departed. Do you regret it? Thale asked quietly. Aurelia's gaze remained fixed on the horizon. I regret that peace was not enough, she said. But I do not regret answering the call. He swallowed. And what will the galaxy think of humanity now? Aurelia turned to him, her eyes fierce. The galaxy will think whatever it wants. She placed her hand on the window, watching the orbiting fleet ignite with power. But those who survive, she murmured, will understand why we were once feared. Far below, Rylus boarded his transport ship, armor gleaming dark as night. Humanity was mobilizing. The stars were trembling. And the monsters had awakened. Humanity had gone quiet for a century. Now the galaxy watched in awe and fear, as Earth awakened. The reactivation of Earth's military archives was not a process of unlocking simple weapons. It was the rebirth of an entire war machine, one designed by generations who believed extinction was always one bad day away. The facilities beneath Antarctica were the first to come online. The moment the vault doors opened, a cold blue light spilled out, revealing ranks of towering exoframes, sleek humanoid war machines known as Titan suits. Each one stood 15 meters tall, constructed with self-repairing alloys and neural cores that could sync with a human pilot in less than a heartbeat. These were not mechs. They were extensions of will, living armor forged for impossible battles. Beside them, rows of compact exo-armor, ether suits, powered themselves up, their reactors humming like sleeping beasts disturbed from hibernation. Hundreds became thousands. Thousands became tens of thousands. And every one of them waited for a soldier to step inside. In orbit, the awakening continued. The Resolute Dawn, humanity's flagship, pulsed with power. Its hull shimmered with layers of adaptive plating, shifting its appearance like a predator ready to strike. Rows of energy lances retracted and extended in testing sequences. Drone bays opened like metallic lungs breathing for the first time in a century. Across the fleet, similar vessels activated. The Solar Tempest, the Night Ward Shield, the Eclipse's Wrath, old names from humanity's final war era, carrying reputations that had once made the Concorde uneasy. Now those same names gave the galaxy hope. The skies above Earth filled with the glow of engines. Streaks of blue and white tore through the atmosphere as ships climbed into space. Even the oldest civilians felt the pulse in their bones, the unmistakable thrum of a world preparing for war. At the center of it all stood Aurelia Kane, overseeing the mobilization from the strategic dome. We are committed, she said quietly, gazing at the lift feed projections. There is no turning back now. Her advisor, General Kesser-Harn, nodded. The devourers won't know what hit them. But Aurelia's expression remained measured. Do not underestimate an enemy that consumes stars. Rylus Varen's shuttle landed at the Obsidian base, a repurposed military complex nestled inside a canyon of black volcanic rock. The base had been dormant since the treaty, empty corridors, sealed armories, locked command rooms. But now it was alive again. Troops ran drills on massive training grounds. Engineers sprinted between hangars. Pilots calibrated their suits. The air smelled faintly of ozone and metal, a scent Rylus had not experienced since his youth. As he stepped off the shuttle, conversations quieted. Soldiers watched him with a mixture of respect and curiosity. Many had heard stories of him, some exaggerated, some forgotten, all spoken in hushed tones. He ignored the attention and headed straight for the armory. Inside, the air was cold, controlled. Racks of weapons lined the walls, from compact plasma pistols to multi-phase rifles capable of tearing through starship hulls. But his gaze went to one object in particular. A black case, long smooth, locked with biometric seals. He placed his hand on the scanner. The case unlocked with a soft click. Inside lay an exoblade forged before the treaty, one of the few that survived intact. The blade was matte black, etched with faint silver veins. Lightweight, unbreakable, adaptable to any environment. Rylus lifted it with practiced ease. "It's been a long time," he whispered. A voice behind him spoke. "Commander Varen." He turned to see Captain Sarah Lyran, the officer assigned as his second-in-command. Young but sharp-eyed, she held herself with a confidence earned through relentless training. "Your unit roster is complete," she reported. 500 elite operatives. All volunteers. "Volunteers?" he asked, eyebrow raised. "Sir, once they learned you were leading, thousands applied. These are the best of the best." Rylus offered a rare nod. "Good. We'll need them." She hesitated. "Is it true? About the devours?" He studied her expression, fear mixed with excitement. "Truth?" he said, sliding the blade into a sheath on his back. "The truth is simple. Whatever they are, they made a mistake coming here." Deeper inside the facility, training simulations pushed soldiers past their limits. Gravity chambers increased pressure until bones screamed. Neuralink tests forced recruits to sync with ether suits until their thoughts flowed as one. Combat drills used holographic constructs modeled after the Devourer's movement patterns. Erratic, fluid, unnatural. Rylus walked among the recruits, observing their performance. Some faltered. Some broke. But most endured with a ferocity unique to humanity. He stopped beside a young recruit gasping on his knees. "Why did you join?" Rylus asked. The recruit swallowed hard. Because I couldn't watch the galaxy fall. Because someone has to stand up." Rylus offered a tiny smile. "Then stand up. Humanity doesn't kneel to fear." The recruit pushed himself to his feet, trembling but determined. Rylus moved on. While training continued, researchers in Earth's labs studied every scrap of data the Concorde provided. They analyzed fragments of Devourer biomass, examined destroyed ship logs, dissected corrupted energy patterns. One fact became clear. The Devourers did not simply consume. They repurposed. They took matter, organic or inorganic, and transformed it into more of themselves. They evolved mid-battle. They adapted to weapon types. They learned. Humanity had faced adaptable enemies before, but never on this scale. When Rylus attended the briefing, the head scientist, Dr. Auron Mythos, spoke with palpable dread. "If we do not strike the heart of the Devourers soon," he warned, "they will out-evolve our every weapon." Rylus folded his arms. "Then we won't give them the chance." Finally the day arrived. The Obsidian Wings deployment order. Rylus stood on the launch deck wearing his full ether commander suit. Sleek black armor hugged his body, pulsing with faint violet lines that shifted with his heartbeat. His visor displayed tactical data. The exoblade hung at his back, humming softly. Captain Sarah joined him, suited and ready. Below them, hundreds of soldiers stood in formation. Above them, dropships lowered into position. The Resolute Dawn waited in orbit, engines burning like stars. Rylus activated the comlink. His voice echoed across the canyon. "Obsidian Wing," he said, "today we return to the battlefield. Not as conquerors. Not as tyrants. But as the shield the galaxy abandoned, and the sword it now begs for." He stepped forward. "The Devourers believe they can extinguish the stars. They are wrong." He raised his arm, pointing toward the sky. "Today humanity awakens its blade." The dropships opened. The soldiers boarded. Rylus whispered one final word. "Move." The Obsidian Wing launched into the heavens. Humanity was no longer silent. It was ready to fight. The words echoed across every ship, through every neural link, across every human heart. Unleash the Legion. Centuries of restraint dissolved. In the void before them, Dracian warships swarmed like a metallic storm, jagged armor, bone-like plating, engines burning violet. An armada bred for extinction, forged from a culture that worshipped domination. To them the humans were prey. To humans the directions were a threat to protect others from. Two instincts collided. And the universe trembled. The Legion stirs. On the Resolute Veil, alarms pulsed in rhythmic waves as bays opened and rows of specialized vessels awakened. They were not like the standard strike craft seen across the galaxy. Human ships carried designs no other species dared imagine. Wraith cruisers, hulls that bent light, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. Hammerfall destroyers, brutes of kinetic power capable of splitting dreadnoughts in two. Astra Spear drones, autonomous swarms controlled by human neural fields. And at the center of all of it, the massive Legion carriers, each one a floating relic of forbidden engineering. Kaylee's Arden stared in awe as the 1st Legion Battalion emerged into open space, 16 dark-winged ships gliding forward like predators scenting blood. What are those?" she whispered. Rovan Hale's expression didn't change. "Those," he said, "were sealed away the day the Treaty of Silence was signed. Humanity wasn't allowed to touch them again. And now, Rovan breathed, "we break the seals." The Dracian charge. From the chaos of flashing blue shields and erupting red blasts, a giant Dracian war cluster separated. Their flagship, a titanic blade-shaped cruiser, pushed ahead like a furious beast. Its horned prow burned with unstable energy. Kaylee's recognized the markings. "That's a prime lacerator class. It's leading a spear formation, if it pierces our line." "It won't," Rovan said calmly. As the Dracian horde accelerated, Kaylee's felt the vibration in the deck. A deep pulse, faint but growing. It resonated like a heartbeat. Human ships linked minds, entire crews syncing through neural networks humanity alone had evolved the capacity to handle. A harmony of thought and instinct emerged. She could feel it, as if the humans were becoming one organism. A single predator. The Legion strikes. "Legion, advance," Rovan commanded. The 16 dark-winged ships vanished. Not through cloaking. Through acceleration so extreme the eye could not track the movement. Space warped where they passed. They reappeared inside the Dracian formation. Not near it. Inside it. Kaylee's gasped. "That's impossible, they could collide." "They won't," Rovan said. "Their minds are linked. They pilot as one." The Legion unleashed a coordinated fury. Lines of white fire erupted from their wings, slicing through Dracian hulls. Enemy vessels split apart, molten fragments drifting in glowing trails. A Dracian dreadnought turned its cannons. Too slow. 4 Legion ships moved simultaneously, punching through its shields with synchronized precision. The dreadnought imploded into a collapsing ball of burning metal. Shock rippled through the Dracian ranks. Fear followed. The human mind is a weapon. Kaylee struggled to process what she was seeing. How are they doing this? Rovan finally looked at her and she saw something in his eyes, an ancient, heavy truth. "Do you know why the galaxy feared us?" he asked quietly. "Because humans are violent?" No, Rovan shook his head. "Because we adapt at a speed no other species can comprehend." He pointed at the Legion ships darting around like living shadows. Every pilot is connected through a shared neural field. They read each other's intentions before the brain finishes sending the signal. They fight as if they share one mind. Kaylee's felt a chill. That means, the more humans involved, the smarter and faster they become. Exactly. And the Drexians don't understand that every moment this battle continues, we evolve faster than they can respond. The Dracian counterattack. But Drexians weren't passive prey. Their flagship roared as energy surged along its armored spine. Kaylee's console flared with warning red. "They're powering a rift cannon." Rovan's expression hardened. The rift cannon was outlawed across the galaxy, a weapon that tore open microspatial fractures. Anything caught in its path was sliced out of existence. The Dracian flagship lowered its prow toward the Legion battalion. Rovan stepped forward. "They're targeting the Legion. If that cannon fires..." He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Kaylee's watched as the Dracian weapon built toward critical output. She whispered, "We can't intercept in time." Rovan's eyes narrowed. "No. But one of us can." The silent blade. A new signal lit the tactical display, a ship Kaylee's had never seen before. It detached from the Resolute Veil's underside, gliding silently. Slick, small, deadly. Black like a starless void. "What ship is that?" Kaylee's asked. Rovan exhaled slowly. "The silent blade." She blinked. "But I've never seen it in your fleet schematics." "You weren't supposed to. Only the highest command knew it existed. Even the council never learned of it." Kaylee's looked closer. The ship had no visible weapons. "How is it going to stop a rift cannon?" "It won't," Rovan said. "Its pilot will." A cold realization struck her. "Rovan, who's piloting it?" Rovan didn't answer. The silence told her everything. He watched the small ship streak toward the Dracian flagship. "Commander," she breathed. "You can't." "My place is at the front," he said simply. Kaylee's felt her throat tighten. "You're the only one who can coordinate the Legion. We need you here." Rovan looked out at the stars, at the burning wreckage, at the swarming Drexians, at the humans fighting like a reborn storm. "They don't need me," he said. "Not anymore. Humanity has awakened. A leader's gamble." The Dracian flagship reached full charge. The rift cannon's maw glowed with swirling light. Time seemed to slow. The silent blade accelerated, its hull vibrating as its engine screamed. Kaylee shouted, "If you get too close, the spatial distortion will tear you apart." Rovan didn't respond. He closed his eyes. Years of restraint, all the instincts humans had buried, rose within him like a tide. He whispered to himself, "This is why we were forbidden from war." The silent blade vanished into a blur. Collision course. The Dracian weapon fired. A beam of warped reality ripped forward, shredding everything it touched. Kaylee's covered her mouth. "Rovan." The silent blade didn't evade. It dove straight into the beam. A shockwave tore through space, white, violent, silent. Human ships staggered under the blast. Kaylee screamed his name. But the sensors detected something impossible. The beam fractured. Split. Redirected. The Dracian flagship's own rift cannon turned back upon it, bending like a breaking spine. And the flagship exploded in a sphere of collapsing space. Silence filled the void. The Legion paused. The Dracian fleet recoiled in terror. And Kaylee stared at the burning light where Rovan Hale had vanished. But in the silence, a signal blinked on her console. Weak. Distorted. Human. Kaylee's heart nearly stopped. He's alive. She didn't know how. She didn't know where. But one thing was clear. The monster the galaxy feared. The leader humanity needed. The man who shattered a forbidden treaty. Rovan Hale had not fallen. And the war had only just begun. Kaylee's Arden didn't breathe. She couldn't. Her console displayed a single blinking dot, faint, flickering, buried in layers of static. A signal so weak any computer would normally dismiss it as noise. But the identifier code was unmistakable. Rovan Hale. Alive. Somewhere inside the distortion field left behind by the rift cannon's collapse. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Rovan, please answer." Nothing came back. The Legion ships slowed their assault, drifting in a loose formation as if waiting for direction. Their pilots sensed something was wrong. The human neural field, moments ago sharp and united, now fluctuated like a damaged heartbeat. Without Rovan anchoring it, the connection grew unstable. Kaylee's gripped the rail so tightly her knuckles went white. Humanity's greatest weapon had always been the collective mind they shared in battle. A mind Rovan had guided with impossible clarity. Without him, they might tear themselves apart. The directions recoil. Across the battlefield, the Dracian fleet hesitated. They had just witnessed their flagship, built over a century, symbol of their war god, shattered by a single human vessel. Their formation wavered. Their cannons slowed. Their instinct-driven culture had never experienced fear like this. Kaylee saw it and understood the shift. "They're retreating," she murmured. Commander Voss Reelin, now highest-ranking officer remaining aboard the Resolute Vale, approached. His scarred face was grim but steady. "They're not retreating," Voss said. "They're reassessing. Directions never run unless they're planning something worse." He wasn't wrong. Already, clusters of Dracian cruisers regrouped, forming a wide crescent around the battlefield. Their movements looked chaotic, but Kaylee's recognized the pattern. "It's a containment net," she realized. "They want to trap us here." Voss nodded. "Our fleet can punch through, but not without losing half of the Legion. And with their neural field in chaos, losses would cascade." Kaylee's looked back at the flickering signal. "We need Rovan." Voss didn't answer. His silence said everything. Rovan might be alive, but reaching him was another matter. The distortion field. The rift cannon's destruction had torn a chasm in space, an unstable bubble of fractured reality. Lightning-like arcs rippled across the void. Sensors malfunctioned. Ships that got too close risked disintegration. Kaylee studied the readouts. The silent blade hadn't been destroyed, it had been thrown inside the distortion. A place where physics bent like cloth. A place no ship was meant to enter. "We can't leave him," she said. Voss exhaled slowly. "Kaylee, the field will tear apart anything that tries to enter. Even the Legion isn't built for this." Kaylee turned sharply. "Then I'll go." Voss startled. "You aren't a pilot." "I don't have to be. If I can patch into the Legion neural field, I can guide a Wraith cruiser inside. It's the only ship fast enough to slip through the distortions." "That's suicide." Kaylee smiled faintly, a sad, tired curve. "So was what Rovan did." Silence stretched between them. Then Voss placed a hand on her shoulder. "Do it." Into the breach. Minutes later, the hangar of the Resolute Vale hummed as a black, winged Wraith cruiser prepared for launch. Its sleek hull absorbed every light. Its engines whispered rather than roared. It was built for one purpose: penetrating the impossible. Kaylee stepped into the neural cockpit. Cables slithered across her arms, her spine, her temples. The ship's AI recognized her and pulsed with soft warmth. Pilot detected. Synchronizing consciousness. A wave washed over her, cold, sharp, electric. Suddenly she felt everything. Every shift in gravity. Every vibration of the hull. Every heartbeat of the Legion pilot still fighting beyond. Her breath trembled. This is how Rovan felt, she whispered. Too much. Too fast. The human mind was never meant to hold this much information. She clenched her jaw. Held steady. Launch. The Wraith cruiser shot out of the hangar and into the shimmering chaos of the distortion field. Space twisted immediately. Stars bent like liquid. Colors she'd never seen flickered across her view. Alarms screamed, trajectory deviation. Hull stress critical. Neural overload imminent. Kaylee's forced the ship steady. Rovan, where are you? The faint signal pulsed again, once like a heartbeat. She pushed forward. Through storm-like waves of distorted gravity. Through fields that felt like invisible teeth pulling at the hull. Her vision blurred. The neural link burned. But she kept going. Because Rovan Hale had thrown himself into a weapon of annihilation to save the Legion. Because without him humanity could lose itself. Because she wouldn't, let him die alone. The broken blade. Deep within the distortion bubble she saw it. A flicker of black metal. The silent blade. Torn. Cracked. Barely held together. It drifted like a wounded animal. Kaylee's gasped. Rovan. Her sensors couldn't read life signs, but she didn't need them. She felt him, faint but present, in the neural resonance. Her cruiser latched onto the wreck, stabilizing it. She opened comms. Rovan, can you hear me? Static. Then. A voice hoarse and barely alive. Kaylee's? She nearly sobbed. Yes, I'm here. Hold on. No, listen. His voice faded, then sharpened with raw urgency. You need to leave. Kaylee's froze. What? Why? The directions, they're not retreating, they're calling. The signal broke into harsh static. Kaylee screamed into the comm, calling what, Rovan? Then she saw it. Her scanners lit with a new contact. Something massive. Something ancient. Something the directions had kept hidden. A shadow beyond the distortion field. A monstrous engine of war emerging from rift space, dwarfing every ship in the battle. A Dracian Oblivion behemoth. A planet killer. Kaylee's blood ran cold. Rovan's voice returned, weak, urgent, terrified. They're not trying to stop us. They're trying to erase us. The revelation. Outside the distortion field, Voss watched in horror as the monstrous silhouette appeared. The Dracian fleet, no longer disorganized, formed a reverent formation around the behemoth. Kaylee's voice crackled through the fleet channel. Rovan found the truth, they didn't want to defeat humanity. They wanted to lure us here. Voss whispered, a trap. Kaylee's continued, the behemoth isn't a weapon. It's a summoner. It's opening a rift big enough to bring the Dracian Godforge through. The entire command deck fell silent. The Godforge was a myth. A floating factory capable of producing a war fleet in hours. A machine that consumed stars to fuel itself. And now it was coming. Because humanity had finally shown its strength. Because the galaxy's forbidden monsters had awakened. And the directions wanted to break them forever. Kaylee's final message cut through every human channel. We either stop that rift, or the entire Union, every world, every species, falls. The Legion reformed. The humans steadied. Because now they understood. This wasn't just a war. This was the reckoning the Treaty of Silence had tried to prevent. And the stars had called for monsters. The Oblivion behemoth tore into real space like a nightmare taking form. It dwarfed entire cities. Its armor pulsed with shifting bone metal. Its engines glowed with the cold light of a dying sun. The Dracian fleet surrounded it in perfect reverence as if greeting a god. Their ships shifted from panic to fanatic zeal. Kaylee's Arden watched from inside the distortion bubble, still tethered to the shattered silent blade. Rovan Hale, half-conscious in the broken cockpit, murmured words she prayed were not his last. It's not a weapon, it's a doorway, she swallowed. To the Godforge? Rovan nodded weakly. If it arrives, the Union falls. Every world. Every species. Kaylee stared at the monstrosity forming beyond the distortion field. The rift behind it swelled, a red wound spreading across the stars. And even through the chaos of space she could feel the thing approaching on the other side. Huge. Hungry. Awakening. This wasn't just a threat. It was extinction. The Legion trembles. On the battlefield, human ships drifted in a moment of eerie stillness. They had been built for war, but not this kind of war. The Legion's neural field fluctuated like a storm losing control. Pilots screamed as echoes of the behemoth's psychic presence clawed at their minds, an ancient roar of dominance forged by countless enslaved species the directions had consumed. Commander Voss Rieland held the rail of the resolute Veil, shaking with fury. "All ships," he commanded, voice steady despite the dread, "brace for the largest engagement humanity has ever seen." The Legion steadied. The human fleet aligned. But no one pretended this battle was fair. A plan without hope. Inside the distortion bubble, Kaylee's linked her cruiser directly into Rovin's failing systems. His vital signs flickered dangerously. "Don't move," she whispered. "I'm getting you out." His eyes opened, dim, pained, but burning with the fire that made humans so feared. "No. Kaylee's, you can't save me." She refused to hear it. "Do not say that. Not when we've come this far. There's no time." He coughed, blood flecking his lip. "The rift needs a human mind to collapse it. A direct neural override." Her heart froze. "That would kill you." "Yes." He smiled faintly. "Better me than the galaxy." Kaylee shook her head violently. "I won't let you." "There's something you don't realize," Rovin whispered. His hand trembled as he reached up, touching her cheek. "Humans weren't forbidden from war because we destroy." Kaylee's blinked through tears. "Then why?" "Because we choose to sacrifice." He exhaled. "No species does it like us." Her voice broke. "Rovin, please." He closed his eyes as if surrendering to the inevitable. But Kaylee's wasn't done. "No," she whispered. "You're wrong." He opened his eyes, confused. "We don't win wars by dying," she said. "We win because we refuse to accept the impossible." The impossible choice. Kaylee shut down her ship's safety protocols. The Wraith cruiser's neural field surged. The cruiser AI warned her. Neural overload imminent. Pilot consciousness integrity, 22%. But she ignored it. She grabbed Rovin's trembling hand and intertwined their neural cables. "What are you doing?" he rasped. "Sharing the load," she said. "You said it yourself, humans adapt by bonding. By connecting. We fight as one." "Kaylee's." She pressed her forehead to his. "I'm not letting you die alone." The neural field snapped into place. Their minds linked. Their pain shared. Their will united. And the distortion field stabilized just enough for them to act. The call to monsters. The Wraith cruiser, dragging the wounded silent blade, blasted out of the distortion bubble like a black arrow. Human ships cheered. Dracian ships shrieked in alarm. Kaylee's voice thundered through every human comm channel. "Humanity, brace yourselves. Rovin and I will collapse the rift. But we need you to break the behemoth's shields." Silence. Then, the roar of 1,000 human voices. "We've got you." The Legion, trembling and disorganized moments before, snapped into perfect formation. Their neural field ignited. They became one. Predators reborn. The final battle. The Dracian behemoth unleashed a storm of rift energy. Dozens of human ships were obliterated instantly, but the Legion split into lightning-fast vectors. Wraith cruisers danced through fire. Hammerfall destroyers slammed through armored hulls. Astra spear drones consumed enemy fighters like metal piranhas. Humans fought with a fury the galaxy hadn't seen in centuries. But the behemoth was colossal, and its shields held. Kaylee's felt the strain on her mind increasing. "We can't collapse the rift until those shields fall." Voss Rieland responded with a voice full of steel. "Then we break them the human way." He ordered every surviving Hammerfall destroyer forward. A suicide run. Kaylee screamed, "Voss, don't. Tell humanity's story," he said. And cut the channel. The Hammerfalls accelerated, engines burning hotter than safe limits. They hit the behemoth's shields with the force of falling stars. The shockwave was blinding. Kaylee's cried out as dozens of human lives winked out. But the shield shattered. The last act. Rovin squeezed her hand. "This is it." Kaylee's nodded. Together. They plunged the Wraith cruiser and the broken silent blade straight toward the rift. Neural fields crackled. Their minds burned. Pain tore through them like fire. The rift shrieked, alive, resisting. The Godforge pressed through from the other side, a world-sized machine of war and void black metal. Kaylee screamed as her consciousness strained. Rovin roared as his neurons cracked. And together, they did the impossible. They forced the rift shut. The collapse was like a supernova of silence. The behemoth screamed as its power source vanished, and detonated in a shockwave that tore through every Dracian ship. The battlefield went white. When the light faded, the Dracian armada was gone. The behemoth, destroyed. The rift, sealed forever. Human ships drifted in stunned quiet, their pilots half-conscious, shaking, alive. And in the center of the debris field, a single Wraith cruiser floated, cracked and burning. Kaylee's gasped awake, lungs on fire, vision blurred. Rovan? She turned. He lay beside her, breathing. Alive. Barely. But alive. His eyes fluttered open. You did it, he whispered. No, she said, tears streaming. We did. In the distance, the surviving Legion ships lit their beacons in silent salute. Humanity, once forbidden from war, had saved the galaxy. Not because they were monsters, but because they were willing to become monsters when no one else could. The treaty burns. Days later, the Union Council broadcast a message to every corner of the galaxy. The Treaty of Silence was abolished. Humanity was named Protector of the Outer Realms. The Legion became an official defense force. And Rovan Hale and Kaylee's Arden, scarred, bonded, forever changed, stood before millions as symbols of what humans truly were. Not conquerors. Not destroyers. But guardians who rose when the stars called for monsters. And answered with heart.